What's up, y'all? It's Marcus Frazier from Teachable Tuesdays, here to motivate you, encourage you, and inspire you to be a better you. Thank you for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. It's been a while since we've done a video in the office, so pretty excited to be here today. And I would like to welcome you to episode 2 of our musical journeys. Excuse me. So if you missed episode 1, I'm going to give you a very brief context of what this series is all about, but I would recommend that you pause the video and go back and watch episode 1 so you can understand the full context. But long story short, I'm going to be talking about a whole lot of music stuff over these next couple of weeks. Different artists that are going to be coming on to tell their story, what their music lifestyle is like, how they got into music, and so on and so forth. Episode 1 was the intro. Episode 2 is really going to focus on me. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today, and I'm just going to be talking to you guys about how my musical journey started. I've talked briefly about it on this channel before, but I've never really opened up to exactly what are the ins and outs of my music channel, but my musical journey. Things that I've gotten involved with, so on and so forth, and things of that sort of nature, right? So we're going to be talking about that today. But before we begin, first and foremost, 2 things. Number 1, please hit the like button and subscribe button to stay up to date with all of my future Teachable Tuesdays content on the channel. Number 2, as of the recording of this video, which I've recorded this video well in advance, so we might be a little further along by the time this video actually comes out. I always try to put my videos a little further out, especially these past couple weeks. I've just been on the road with things. We are at 416 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for subscribing to the community. The goal, as I've been saying for these past couple of months, is to get to a minimum of 500 subscribers by December 31st. And I think we can do it. So please spread the love, share the channel, share the videos. If you're not subscribed, come in for a little bit, have a seat. If you don't like it, you don't have to subscribe. But if you do like it, subscribe and share it with a friend or two or a family member or two. All right? So we're going to take you all the way back to, I'm going to say, 2001. That's where my musical journey began. So I was 10 years old at the time. And my musical journey, like most black people, I know this sounds kind of stereotypical, but it's actually kind of true. The origins of my musical journey actually began in church. No, I'm not a singer, for the record. And for anybody who's new subscribing to the channel, let me go ahead and preface this. I'm a hip-hop artist. I have been rapping since I was 10 years old. I am 33 currently. I'm a part of a hip-hop group known as the Innovators Music Group. But long before I joined the Innovators Music Group, I was a solo hip-hop artist, right? I actually released a mixtape about a year before I actually met my group. So, but before all that came into fruition, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, I would say it started off when I was 10 years old. I was involved in the church as a part of the music ministry. I went to a church called Divine Mission Apostolic Faith. And shout out to Pastor Lamont. He's Mr. Lamont at the time, back in the day. He's a pastor now. And he was the one that was very instrumental in getting me started in, my journey with music in terms of being a musician, if you will. I started off by playing the bongos. Also shout out to Elder Barry, may he rest in peace. He was the one that taught me how to play the bongos. Pastor Lamont was telling me about teaching me about the fundamentals of music and the history of gospel music and whatnot, and gospel music within the church, especially within the African American community, right? He even taught me a couple of things about the music ministry also within Baltimore, which is very interesting to say the least. I'll talk about that in another video. That's something I'm really excited to talk about. But I started off in the bongos. I wanted to start off on the drum set. It was 2 other people that were playing the drum set. Well, actually 3 people. It was Tamia, Greg, and Jamario. Shout out to them, by the way. I feel like I'm missing somebody else, but those are the 3 that I remember the most. And of course, I had no idea how to play the drum set, so I was playing the bongos, which the bongos was like a secondary instrument. It would switch up between me and Elder Barry. We would be the ones that would be playing the bongos together, but eventually he let me do my thing once I got better, because he spent more time serving, with the church staff and whatnot. So I was playing bongos, had a lot of fun. I love playing bongos. Actually, arguably, on some days I preferred playing bongos over the set. And I remember just, once I finally got halfway okay on the set, Pastor Lamont would let me play during tithes and offerings. It would only be one song, but it would be enough for me to get a little bit of experience, right? So as time went on, church members, eventually leave. They go on to different churches, or they move to different states or different cities and whatnot, and so on and so forth. So a lot of things changed up in the music ministry at our church, which I'll get into that a little bit later on, because you could say that the musical staff decreased because of all the changes, people moving, and so on and so forth, right? But that leads me to my next pathway of music, which is the main pathway I'm focused on right now, which is hip-hop. Hip-hop started for me as a joke, right? And not saying hip-hop is a joke, no, by any means, but for me, I didn't treat hip-hop like it was a joke, but I treated rapping like it was just something funny to do in class, right? I was in 5th grade. I remember the rock song, we will rock you, that song, right? So we're singing that song with a couple classmates, and I remember we was in the cafeteria just playing around freestyling. So I remember I did a freestyle where we were just doing this beat, and it was something like, I will rock you in the face, I will punch you in the face, I will put you to outer space. No, sir, you ain't got no taste. Let me say it, yo. We will rock you. That was my first ever freestyle. That literally came off the top of the dome. And, they liked it, and I remembered it, so I had to hurry up and write it down so I would forget. Because I'm the type of person where, even ever since I was a kid, if I don't write stuff down right away, I'm going to forget. Point blank, period, right? So, but it was a joke at the time. I wasn't really being serious. I enjoyed listening to rap music on the radio. Shout out to 92Q Jams. And, it was just for fun, right? Until that summer, I saw the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, which is something that I always watched. I remember when my mom, my stepdad, and me and my little brother and fairly somewhat newborn sister, we moved into an apartment on I forgot the name. I think it was Mary Avenue. No, it wasn't Mary Avenue. It was another apartment. I can't think of the name of the complex right now. But anyway, it was a townhouse, not apartment, townhouse. But basically, we had just got cable. And I was watching the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. Because my mom was like, all right, you can watch Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, and after that, you got to go to bed, because I had school the next day, right? So I was watching it, and I remember that it was a guy by the name of Little Romeo, Romeo Miller. And he was the one that inspired me to actually start rapping. A lot of people don't know that. What happened was I was watching him on Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, which I told this story on the channel before, but to make it brief, I was just like, he's the same age that I am. And in my mind, I'm like, if he can do it, I can write some rhymes too. Now, mind you, little did I know, there were definitely plenty of rappers who were younger that had been in the game. I mean, you got Bow Wow, which I knew about Bow Wow. You have Chris Cross and so on and so forth, right? But this was the first time I was knowledgeable about a young rapper and paying him attention. So he became my rap idol at the time, right? So I wrote my first rhyme that night. It was called Rock It Tonight. You gotta see the trend here. Rocking something, right? So my mom said, all right, you got 30 minutes. It's time for bed. I went upstairs. I hurried up and showered. I brushed my teeth. I had about 15 minutes. I wrote my first rap. I did not finish it that night. I finished the first verse that night, but I finished the entire rap the very next day. So during my lunch period, I sat at the table by myself. My friends were trying to come up to me. I was like, leave me alone. I'm working on something. And I finished it. And I showed it to all my friends. They liked it. It was real cool. Showed it to my mom. She loved it. And that's when my musical journey really kicked off. So I remember, my stepdad, he would, see me writing rhymes. I think my first song was called Rock It Tonight. My second song was called Love Like This. And my third was about a girl that I had a crush on when I was in elementary school. No, middle school. I was in middle school at the time. And then my third song was called Jesus Is Coming Soon. What was the hook for that song? I think it was Jesus is coming soon. This ain't no time to play. Better get your life right, because he may come back today. Something like that. I don't know. But those are the three songs I distinctly remember. And the reason why was because I wanted to make a fake demo tape. So my stepdad, he had a piano that had like, automatic beats to it. I don't know if you guys have ever had one of those type of pianos, but I had my boombox and we would record like just to be funny, and the audio was so terrible. I don't know if I even had that cassette tape. I gotta go home. Next time I go home, I gotta go ask my mom that she had it. But oh my gosh, dog, the audio was so horrible. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. It was absolutely atrocious, but it was me at the time, right? So I started doing that. What else did I get into? I started getting into more music in general, exploring different genres of music. This is where my mind really started opening up to, knowing that, I used to listen to a lot of, video game music. Video game music has always been a big deal to me because I played a lot of video games when I was younger. Of course, hip hop and R&B because that's what I heard on the radio. But and gospel because I grew up on gospel. There was a time period in my household where I was only allowed to listen to gospel music on Sundays. Like Sundays I could listen to gospel music any given day of the week. But on Sundays, it was gospel music only. I was not allowed to listen to any other genre because, my parents were like secular music, so on and so forth. Now, that changed real quick. When I was like 12, 13, that went completely out the window. But at the time being, that's what it was. My mom was like, I don't want to hear no rap music. I don't want to hear no R&B on no Sunday. It is straight gospel. You know what I'm saying? My mom was, at the time being, my stepdad was on that old school church life. You know what I'm saying? So that changed real quick. And I think that changed mainly because they begin to understand a different perspective. And I would like to say, I'm not going to say my parents were baby Christians at the time, but I think they were still learning about, their faith and their walk with God and, stuff like that. And when you first truly get saved versus later on down the road, I'm not saying that you change for the worse. You absolutely don't. I think you change for the better when you really stick with God. But you also understand a little bit more as far as what's acceptable versus what's not acceptable, what's a little bit too much versus what's not too much. And that kind of helped me out on my musical journey as well. And I was never one of those kids that rebelled, because I couldn't listen to a certain type of music, although it sucked. But, that means I loaded up Monday through Saturday with other genres of music because I was like, all right, I can't listen to gospel music on no Sunday. So, unless it was over my grandparents' house or my dad's house, and hey, free game, baby, until I got home. So that's how that went. Started exploring techno, house, rock, and a lot of that also came from one of my favorite video games of all time, Dance Dance Revolution, and hearing many different genres from that. Also, that's low-key how I kind of got away with not listening to gospel music on Sunday. I was playing the video game Dance Dance Revolution, you know what I'm saying? And my mom ain't saying nothing about it. I think she knew, but she ain't saying nothing. But, kids were always trying to find a loophole through the system. You feel me? So that's that. Fast forward, I'm continuing my music. I'm writing more. I mean, I probably wrote at least 10 to 15 raps or poems a month for about a good 3 or 4 years. Not every month, but most months throughout the year. You know what I'm saying? So, as a musician, things kept going the same with me and the church and whatnot. And eventually it got to a point where it was just me, Greg, and Tamia. Right, we were the main ones playing set. I was the main bongo player because nobody else really cared for playing bongos. So I was like, I'll do it. And then eventually got to a point where it was just me and Greg because Tamia had other priorities and whatnot. And, Greg and I would switch back and forth with the set. Of course, he would play most of the set. And I think he was at one point in time, he was playing for another church as well. So I would cover for him until he got there. Then he would play. Then I would take over for tithes and offerings. And eventually it got to a point where him and I would play. He would play piano. Pastor Lamont would take a back seat, and I play set. One of our favorite songs was "Bless the Lord." So some of our favorite songs was "Bless the Lord." It was a Todd Tribbett song. I can't think of the name of it right now. I think it was "Victory." Greg, if you watch this video, comment below and tell me if I'm wrong. But and then also it was "Victory." That I love playing that song. That was more so towards like my high school years before I graduated. And then Kirk Franklin, "Imagine Me." That was the first song that Greg and I ever played together where he's playing the keys and I was playing the set. And actually, I think it got to a point where, in some cases, he probably preferred to play the keys because he was trying to learn something new and whatnot. Greg and I were about 2 years apart. I was 2 years old. I'm 2 years older than him, right? So As far as the music thing, when I turned 16, shout out to Nana, by the way. Nana, and I said this on the channel before, long ago, for my new viewers. My grandmother, my mom's mom, she's responsible for getting me in the studio. I think if it wasn't for my grandmother, I probably would not be doing music right now. So big ups to Nana. Very big deal. My 16th birthday, she said, I got a present for you. She said, I found the producer. I'm going to get you in the studio. I was excited, y'all. Like, when I tell you, I'm finna be in the studio. Now, mind you, for the longest, I had been thinking about getting in the studio and so on and so forth, just trying to figure out a way, because I had some classmates that said they were in the studio. I'm like, how in the world do you get in the studio? So I met a woman by the name of Raina Williams. Shout out to her. She was my first producer ever. By the way, she's making really, really dope music. Follow her on Instagram, Raina Williams. But I remember she was working with me on my first mixtape, and we sat down and we talked, and she was like, well, do you have a concept or anything? And I was like, no, not really. I just want to record. I kind of have a title called The Definition of an Outcast, and it demonstrates the fact that, you know, I've always been different. I've always been in my own lane. I've always been, you know, in my own category. Like, it's hard to place me in a box. So I think because of that, I'm an outcast, because I'm not like everybody else. So we just started recording. I remember the first song I recorded was called Lyrical Prowess. It never made it on the album. Actually, to this day, I'm not sure. I think one of my best friends, Monique, shout out to her, I think she might be the only one that has that song, unless there's somebody else, because I had a couple of like demo versions of the mixtape that I passed out to a few people for free. So if you're watching this video and you have that, put your name in the comments, and, you know, shout out to you, right? Because not a lot of people had that. And then I just started recording. The first song that I recorded for the mixtape was called Show Me What You Got remix. It was a remix version of Show Me What You Got by Jay-Z. And a lot of those songs on that mixtape, actually all of the songs in the mixtape, one way or another, were over other people's beats. When I say other people's beats, I mean like famous artists like, you know, Jay-Z, Monica, Mobb Deep, DJ Khaled, you know, so on and so forth, right? And mind you, I didn't get monetized over the mixtapes. I didn't even sell the mixtapes. If I knew back then what I know now, I would have pulled a Nipsey Hussle. Shout out and RIP to Nipsey Hussle. You know, he's the blueprint for a lot of independent things that go on right now with like sales and whatnot and marketing of sales. I mean, he, you know, watch his documentary. But anyways, that's another conversation for another day. Yeah, if I would have knew, I would have pulled a Nipsey Hussle. But you know, hindsight is 2020. Or a Master P. Shout out to Master P too. I would have pulled at him. But you know, you figure it out later on down the road, right? So that leads me to my senior year of high school. And oh, wait, let me backtrack a little bit. Marching band. So I was a part of marching band. My cousin Lamont, shout out to him. He was the one that inspired me to get in the marching band. He marched for a community marching band called the Marching Rebels. And then, you know, he went to college. He started marching for Morgan State. So, of course, when I was in high school, my freshman year was his freshman year at Morgan State. My freshman year of high school, Baltimore City College High School, City Forever, by the way. And I joined the marching band. And, you know, that was another thing that opened my mind to my musical journey or more music in general, right? I was a percussionist. I played cymbals my freshman year. My sophomore year, I played bass drum. I played the tonal. I played the second tonal. My third year, I kind of played everything somewhat. It was mainly snare for the most part, but eventually I ended up transitioning to bass because we lost a bass player. And then my senior year, I was drum captain, and I was drum captain my junior year anyways, but my senior year, I was drum captain along with my co-drum captain, Sierra. And I ended up playing all the instruments. I started off on snare. Eventually, I transitioned to bass because we had a bass player. We lost another bass player. So I'm the type of person that's a leader where I'm like, all right, I'm going to fill the void where nobody else is there. So that's exactly what I did. And then for the second half, we found another bass player. And I said, you know what? I'm playing cymbals when I start marching for Cookman, and I need to get ready. So you go ahead to bass, and I'm going to be on cymbals. And I'll still, you know, act as, you know, I'll take a step back and act as the co-captain, you know, if you will, because I'm like, you know, in my mind, she gonna be here for another year. I'm gone. So she took over. I just took a back seat. Whenever she needed me, I was there, and I just worked on cymbals. You know what I'm saying? So I had to bring that up because that was also very much a fundamental thing when it comes to my music. which will tie into something even bigger later on, which we're going to get into just a second. But I released my first mixtape October of 2008. It was right after our senior ceremony. And I was passing out mixtapes for free. I had 60 copies that day. Passed them all out with the swiftness to all my classmates. Went home and made some more copies. I was making copies by burning CDs. I think I burnt so many CDs, I probably burnt the hole through that computer. Like, I think in 1 week, I literally made 300 burnt CDs. My mom was like, you need to slow down before this computer messes up. Like, I was just pushing it. I had CD sleeves that I brought with my own money because my mom was like, I have no problem with you burning all the CDs, but you are going to be responsible for buying your own stuff. And that's what I did. With the money that I made from working at Chick-fil-A, I had blank CDs, burnt them, rolling them, boom. I think I probably handed out at least a good 600 to 700 in total, which I should have sold 600 to 700 in total. But again, hindsight is 2020. Just thinking to myself, if I would have sold those things for $2 or $3, that's about $1,400 to $2,100 I could have made. But again, I wasn't thinking about that back then. I was thinking, I just wanted to get people to listen to my music, and I gave them my MySpace at the time, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's how that worked. So a lot of people in my high school that I went to high school with really liked the mixtape. They thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty cool too, considering that was the first mixtape. I mean, obviously, errors are made. There's some things I definitely could have did better. I'm a lot more critical of my verses now than I was back then. But again, it's my first mixtape. I was 17 years old. Didn't really think too much into it, right? So fast forward, and this is the important part that kind of ties into college and today. I went to the Great Bethune-Cookman University. I started marching in 2009. That was the year that I also started at Bethune-Cookman as a freshman. And I met a group of people. Mike, a.k.a. Mike the Ghost, Des Navigator, Lathan, Chin, PJ, Peach on the board. And that's how it started off with us. Met a good friend of ours, Will Sean, rest in peace, Will Sean. And we just, we were guys that were just like really into music. We were all music or aspiring to be music majors. And people knew in the band that I freestyled often because that's just, that was one of the things that we were having a sit-down conversation, and they were asking all the freshmen, all right, what's the talent of yours? What do you do? And I told the whole percussion section, I was like, well, all right, I actually have a mixtape out. They were like, what? They was like, let me hear some bars. So I started freestyling, and they was just like, whoa, okay, he really rapped, for real. And eventually I showed them my MySpace as time went on and stuff like that. At that point, MySpace was slowly fading out. Facebook was starting to get big. Facebook was the thing, for real. So that was that. And spring semester, I remember we would just... Oh, Marlon. Shout out to Marlon, too, a.k.a. Black Tiger. And I remember we would just... in Marlon's room in Old Bronson and just, randomly making songs, freestyling. I stayed in New Bronson. I started in Old Bronson. I ended up in New Bronson. And I would just come by Old Bronson and we would just make songs on a random Saturday. Be a random Saturday. All of our homework would be done. We probably would make some songs, like, or not really make songs, but like record stuff on video and just, after that, play some basketball. You know what I'm saying? Good times. Good times as a freshman. Oh my goodness. I miss those days. But yeah, like that's what happened. And it was the reason why I say this is a big monumental moment for me was because that very next year we formed the Innovators Music Group, which I'm not going to get into too much today because that's going to be the next video that we're going to put up. It's going to be about the Innovators Music Group, and I don't want to put too much on that to make this video any longer because this is already a pretty lengthy video, which, by the way, if you stayed at this point, appreciate you. Didn't expect the video to be this long, but appreciate you. You getting the full-on backstory of ACT. That's my hip-hop artist name, by the way. And, what his upbringing was with music. So we were in the studio one night, and we had already recorded a couple songs. Actually, around this time, I started working on my second mixtape. Dez was working on it with me. And there was a beat that I heard from Vinny, aka Eric Vito. Shout out to him. By the way, by the time of the releasing of this video, he will be having a project that actually should be out. Let me see. Should be out today, actually. So I'll leave a link for that in the comments. Check that out. But yeah, so basically, Dez was working with me on my second mixtape, which was called Reality Check. And you know, just a couple weeks later, we all sat in the studio together. We were talking about coming up with names for a group because we had all been recording songs together, you know, between Mike, myself, Dez, Lathan, Marlon, right? And, you know, Erica was in the studio with us. She hadn't recorded anything at the time, but she was our, keep in mind, most of us, with the exception of Mike, were all freshman brothers and sisters, right? Meaning we crabbed in the band together. So we're trying to figure out, you know, a name for our group. And she ended up coming with, you know, how about the Innovators? It was like, okay. And that's how that journey started with the Innovators Music Group, which again, I'm not going to talk too much about the Innovators just yet, but that's just a brief, you know, little intro so you know what's going to be happening with next video when I bring the boys together, right? So I ended up releasing Reality Check in 2012. I kept on working on music as time goes on. Some things that were notable that I remember, BET College Tour came to my school in 2011. And I remember I was freestyling against Riddick. Shout out to my boy Lamar. He's doing big things. He is one of the first rap artists in the Army. That is a freaking big deal. When I say rap artist in the Army, I mean like his job in addition to his duties is being in the Army is to rap for the Army. Like that's freaking dope. Like come on now, that's history. So I remember we had a freestyle battle against each other. I made it to the final round and I ended up winning, and it was really cool. And what's funny was on that day, I had lunch. I had a 1 o'clock class, so I said, all right, cool. I got enough time to do this thing. I didn't even know BET was on our campus that day until like literally I got to the quad, and they told me it's a freestyle contest. It's like, Marcus, sign up for it. I was like, all right, bet. And ate lunch, came, signed up for the competition, performed, and after that, I slid and just made it to my 1 o'clock class. Like business as usual. Like that was funny. Like that was, and one of the reasons why I didn't know what was going on was because I had a job that around that time when I was working in the mornings at Chick-fil-A. It was a Chick-fil-A at the mall. So I would work from about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock in the morning. And that day I got off at 11. And I just got to campus right when they were setting things up. So that was a jam-packed day. And then not to mention I had band practice at night. So yeah, that, whoo. Good memories. I was doing a lot that day. But anyways, so like I said, released Reality Check in 2012. That was the first mixtape I released with Dez in them. So that was a big deal. 2014, I released Ill Minded. That was my third mixtape. My fourth mixtape was Stage 4. That came out in 2016. Shout out to my boy Rob, aka Rob Beats. Or, well, he doesn't go by Rob Beats anymore. He goes by Stylistic. Jesus, I know I'm butchering your name, bro. My bad. You charged from my head, not my heart. So that was that. Those are my 4 mixtapes, and of course, continue to perform with the Innovators Music Group, which we'll talk about that later. I performed for Artscape for the first time in Baltimore, which was in 2017. That was kind of more so somewhat of a solo performance. I mean, Dez he did a few songs with me. It wasn't supposed to be that way, but I know at the time being, Lathan couldn't make it up. And that next year, we all made it up as a group. And then, you know, in addition to the 4 mixtapes I released 2 additional EPs. I released Unknown, which came out in 2019. No, 2019 or 2020. Nope, my bad. Came out in 2020. Uncharted, which came out in... No, I was right. Unknown came out in 2019. Uncharted came out in 2021. And then currently working on my third mixtape. Third EP. Well, technically my third EP is done. It's called Unapologetic. And that will be out sometime in the future. So, yeah, that's my musical journey. It's a few more things that could be in place, but I'm going to wrap this up because this video is almost at the 30-minute mark as I'm speaking. Like, wow, I did not expect the video to be this long. So again, if you stayed until this point and you are not subscribed, I'm gonna need you to subscribe. So if you're listening in the background, which I'm pretty sure some of you guys are, when you get a moment, or if you're driving, please drive safe. Don't subscribe and drive. All right, stop somewhere, then you can subscribe and keep driving or wait till you get to your destination. I would greatly appreciate it. And that's my musical journey, y'all. That's my musical journey. I also do other little things. Like I have this thing called loops and mashups that I create. So on my SoundCloud, I'll put a link for that below as well. Where I just do it for fun. I make loops and mashups. Ain't nothing serious. I'm not expecting to get any notice from doing that. It's just for kicks and giggles. But anyways, this is Marcus Frazier from Teachable Tuesdays, here to motivate you, encourage you, and inspire you to be a better you. I did not expect this video to be 30 minutes, but thank you for joining me anyway. I greatly appreciate it. Come back next week for episode 3, where I will have my boys, the Innovators Music Group, and we're going to talk about our musical journey, how things started, and we'll go from there. Until next time, peace.